When someone attacks you, they are not seeking a resolution. They are hunting for an emotional reaction. The moment you defend yourself, raise your voice, or show agitation, you surrender psychological leverage. You enter their scripted fight. Tactical non-reaction is not submission. It is supreme emotional dominance. In this masterclass, learn how high-status strategists absorb hostility, invert pressure, and neutralize disrespect without ever losing their composure. Every verbal attack, public disrespect, or aggressive challenge is designed with a specific objective: to break your composure and force an impulsive reaction. When an opponent provokes you, they expect you to adopt a defensive posture, retaliate with anger, or show visible distress. The zero reaction baseline is the deliberate refusal to grant them that satisfaction. By maintaining a completely neutral facial expression, steady breathing, and unbothered posture, you destroy the attacker's expected feedback loop. They throw a high-energy psychological punch and hit complete empty air. This lack of reaction immediately flips the psychological dynamic. The aggressor realizes their attempt to destabilize you has failed, causing their own momentum to collapse. By remaining emotionally untouched, you demonstrate absolute self-control while exposing their hostility as uncalibrated and low status. When pressure is applied in a social or professional setting, most individuals instinctively push back with equal force. This creates an escalation cycle where volume increases, logic disappears, and emotional chaos takes over. Kinetic pressure absorption is the strategic discipline of allowing the opponent's aggressive energy to expend itself without absorbing the emotional damage. Instead of interrupting, arguing, or defending your honor, you allow them to finish their entire outburst in complete stillness. You do not absorb their insult, you absorb their timing. By refusing to offer friction or counter-arguments while they speak, you force the aggressor to exhaust their psychological ammo. Once their surge of aggression hits a wall of unyielding calm, the energy in the room resets entirely to your baseline, allowing you to respond from a position of absolute analytical clarity. Aggressors rely on the cover of engagement. If you fight back, both parties appear equally hostile and unprofessional to observers. The mirror inversion disarms this trap by creating a stark visual and tonal contrast between your composure and their lack of restraint. When confronted with emotional hostility, you respond in a slow, deliberate cadence at a volume slightly below normal conversational level. This contrast acts as a psychological mirror in the eyes of everyone watching, and ultimately in the mind of the attacker. Their outburst becomes glaringly obvious, inappropriate, and desperate. By maintaining low-pitch, high-clarity speech, you subtly force the room to judge the aggressor's behavior against your self-sovereign standard. The pressure instantly shifts off of you and onto the attacker, who must now process the embarrassment of their own uncalibrated behavior. Immediate verbal responses often stem from anxiety, the desperate need to fill the air and defend one's position. High-status strategists utilize the strategic pause combined with an unbroken, relaxed gaze to execute leverage after an attack. When someone finishes an aggressive statement, you do not respond immediately. You hold complete physical stillness, maintain direct eye contact for 3 to 5 full seconds, and allow the weight of their words to hang awkwardly in the room. This intentional vacuum creates intense cognitive friction in the opponent's subconscious. As the seconds tick by in silence, the aggressor begins to panic, reanalyzing what they just said and wondering if they overstepped or made a critical mistake. By withholding an immediate response, your presence occupies maximum space, forcing the attacker to break first and soften their stance. Verbal attacks are rarely about the facts. They are wrapped in emotional theatricality designed to provoke an ego battle. De-escalation via cold logic is the methodical process of stripping away every layer of emotional insult, tone, and posturing, reducing the entire conflict down to its bare, objective data points. When hit with an emotional accusation, you completely ignore the tone and address only the underlying substance, if any exists, with clinical detachment. If an opponent says, "You're completely mismanaging this project and wasting everyone's time," a cold logic strategist does not defend their competence. Or they respond, "Which specific metric in phase 2 is behind schedule?" By steering the interaction away from dramatic insults and directly into dry, verifiable facts, you dismantle the emotional theater entirely. The aggressor is forced to step out of their emotional frame and enter your analytical arena. If their attack was based on mere posturing, their argument instantly collapses due to a lack of substance, leaving your status completely unblemished and authoritative. The ultimate mastery of pressure inversion is cultivating the sovereign armor, an internal state of psychological autonomy where your self-worth and emotional stability are completely detached from external opinion, disrespect, or provocation. An individual who requires validation from others is perpetually vulnerable to control. Anyone who can make them angry can direct their choices. A sovereign strategist recognizes that another person's disrespect is never a reflection of their own value, but rather a confession of the aggressor's internal insecurity and lack of control. When you internalize this reality deeply, external attacks lose all ability to trigger an emotional response within you. Hostility bounces off your psychological armor like dust off steel. You do not need to prove your strength, demand respect, or get the last word in an argument because your authority is anchored internally, not granted externally. This profound level of emotional sovereignty radiates an undeniable presence. In high-pressure situations, while others lose their heads, panic, or descend into childish arguments, you remain an unshakable anchor. You navigate conflict with effortless precision, turning external attacks into opportunities to demonstrate supreme status, total self-command, and absolute tactical dominance.